Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast where we bring you stories every single week, 52 weeks a year. We are approaching our 365th episode. Soon you will be able to listen to one episode every day for a whole year. Isn't that exciting? I am, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we're here to tell you a story. New week, new story, guys. How you feeling? You feeling confident about your elements?
Yep, I think so.
Cool. I had government type, and I want to go first. What did you have, Reed?
I have something based on a book I'm reading.
I had Pantheon.
So I'm itching at the bit. This is a story element that I've been thinking about for like a couple of weeks now, maybe a month or so. Does someone want to go first, or should I just jump in?
Go. You can go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have government type. Now, what government type is as a story element is this is the way that the government functions, right? This is different than the economic system, but sometimes they're intertwined. And in fact, I also have another story element that's going to tie into this as well, just to kind of flesh the world out a little bit more and everything like that. All right. So what we have is the government, the country of Xander, right? Xander is a piecemeal part of a lot of different countries that has recently, like for the last couple hundred years, been under sort of serious oppression from all sides. It's been a puppet state. The other countries have tried splitting it up, but the people who the core racial demographic were very anti-authority, very stick in the mud, very stubborn people, and therefore hard to rule. Finally, the country to the north kind of was like, we've had enough of this, and started to kind of send out basically a kill order on all the people of all the people of the Xanderian ethnic background, right? We're just going to kill them all because that's easier. However, when people are under sort of attack like that, it tends to be pretty unifying. So as a result of this, 20 or 30 sort of heroes arose. These were the kind of the leaders of the rebellion, and they kind of rose up quickly and overthrew and then really kind of solidified certain political aspects and like fortified cities. And all of a sudden, within a space of like 20 years, Xander was again a powerhouse, unified country. However, it was pretty new. It was pretty new. And in the process of this rebellion, all but 3 of the sort of key heroes were slain, right? These were heroes of commerce. These were heroes of strategy. These were heroic figures. These were, all different types of heroes. And so what they decided on was to have a king. So there was one kind of central heroic figure. His name is lost to time, but since he was raised to the kingship, he was given the last name and the title of Xander, right? In him is the whole country, right? And in order to kind of rejoice over their newfound wealth and their newfound kind of position as a country, a festival or a holiday was erected for every single one of the sort of fallen heroes, right? Now, this is where things get weird. Because this country had so many feast days, a decree was decreed. Basically, a permanent sort of party planning committee was created in order to sort of facilitate each one of these feast days, right? And here's where things went wrong. Xander, the original Xander, was in a spot of sort of blind ignorance, sort of gave them like de facto power to make decisions and to get things done, to make these feast days happen, because these 17 people were his friends, So now, fast forward 100 years later, when the party planning committee controls the government, every single day nearly is a feast day. They have complete control over all feasts. They have complete control over all trade. They have complete control over everything. The current Xander sits on the throne, but is kind of king in name only, right? He is constantly browbeaten and given the explanation that this is what his grandfather would have wanted, right?
Yeah.
The Great Rebellion. He's like, there's the edict written in his own script, right? Signed by his own name, that the party planning committee has complete and total control to make this thing happen. And so through just bureaucracy and stuff like that, they have increased the amount of parties and festivals that have happened in honor of just who cares at this point, that it's just out of control. And so he kind of sits in his the throne room all day. No one ever comes and talks to him because, if you want a new business, you talk to the party planning committee to promise certain things or to see how your business footprint will affect the parades, right? So he just is there. His last duty is that he has the keys to the coffers, to the the vault of treasure, and it's the king's sworn duty to lead men into battle. But there hasn't been a battle since like his dad was a young man, right? And so Xander is in fact our hero because something's going to happen where he is going to need to begin to play the politics game, but also play the kind of manipulation game to stop the party planning committee, which has clearly gone off the reins and is like currently bankrupting the country, to sort of retake his kingdom, relearn, reinstitute all of the freedoms and things that his grandfather and his grandfather's friends fought for, which are long forgotten at this point because, it's a hero's day. This is the day we drink. This isn't the day we remember this such and such hero. This is the day that we drink ale. And then tomorrow's the day we drink mead. It's like, who cares who the hero was? All we care about is partying. So that's the government type. What do you guys think?
That's cool. I can see something like that happening. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, the festival planners and everything, the whole economy is centered around providing for and pulling off these festivals. And then, of course, the people who prosper are the people that weasel their way into having whatever featured element that they produce as part of the festival.
Right.
And
like, there's plenty of former heroes. We've long stopped having heroes be feasts. We now have a feast for corn, right?
Yeah.
We got a feast for pickled fish. We got a feast for beer that's gone off slightly and has turned to vinegar, that brand of vinegar. It's like there's a feast for everything. And when there's a feast for everything, nothing, there's no respect given to anything anymore.
Right.
So,
but it's just what it is also is where people have bureaucratic control. It tends toward authoritarianism unless there's some sort of check against it.
Right. And I'll say for sure that it's not like the government isn't functioning. It's people are still farming. People aren't like forgetting to farm or to be shepherds or whatever, So it's not like the country's falling apart in that way. It's like the culture is falling apart because it's just too much, So my thought is that he would find some kind of loophole where he gets to, because he doesn't right now. Xander is like hand to mouth when it comes to like his father had to institute mini feasts, right? Mini celebrations that happened every morning, every afternoon, and every night to as a way to celebrate the royalty.
Yeah.
Because he'd been like cut out of being able to even provide food for himself. So he found some way to like declare a micro celebration for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, just so they can get food on the table. That's funny.
Yeah. And everyone kind of, thinks he's got like the best thing. And all of the party planning committee, all the public representatives for it are very like a demure, very like, sir, if you would just, sign this for us. But when no one's around, they treat Xander like nothing, and he has access to the coffers. But what I mean by that is maybe it's like coded to his DNA or something, it's like only he can access this gold, but they have kind of so hogtied his ability to do anything, like his father, we'll say that his father died when his father tried to make a special celebration where the king would address all of the people, right? As a way to like tell people what's been going on.
Right.
But he was killed before he was able to.
Yeah.
And so now Xander has lived most of his life raised by these people and just kind of goes along to get along but then something happens. And my thought is that he uses something with the clause that he has to, he's the only one who can lead troops out.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses something with that to be able to procure resources and get out of the city.
Okay.
And then his kind of world just kind of opens up, and then, then he begins his hero journey or whatever. So, do you guys have any ideas?
So real quick, maybe before Reed goes, I, being that it's improv and things can change a little bit, I would possibly like to request a different element.
Okay.
As kind of a last minute thing, because again, I kind of like my idea for Pantheon that I've got here, but I think that it would intertwine, not intertwine properly into your thing. So I would just like quickly request to use it at a different time that I get Pantheon.
Okay. That's never come up before. Sure. Do you have any good ideas?
Not particularly. I wasn't sure if you just wanted to like random draw a different element off of there. But I can think about for a second while Reed gives his.
Yeah, sure. Reed, you start. I'll send you it, Seth.
Okay.
Reed, just launch in.
Well, I was just finishing a book last week when we drew names. It was Cold Mountain, which is a novel kind of set in sort of the last gasps of the Civil War, and there's a theme in that I think would fit with this. Another book that I was reading that I finished that one and I've been reading then the latter part of this week is same genre. It's historical fiction, but it's based on the title of it is Shiloh by Shelby Foote, Foote, and it's just stories about like individual soldiers on both the North and the South, and set in the setting of the Battle of Shiloh, which has a really intriguing thing for this story. I think that book just follows like a couple of individual characters, a couple of officers, a couple of privates, and their part in the fog of war. They generally just know what's going on around them, and they're kind of in the dark. And what happens to an individual, as he gets called up and he's part of the, Minnesota volunteers that come to fight, and he's a cannoneer with a 1st Minnesota Battery, and they start doing what he's been trained to do and shooting, but they're getting overrun, so they have to like get the horses and mount up and get the cannons and the caissons and everything, and they got to go back to another position and set up again, and then they get pushed back again. They have to do it, and the third time they're setting up and they're fighting, and then the word comes down, we got to pack up and move again, and it's just like this one character just kind of loses heart, and he just walks away. And he finds himself, there's a kind of a landing where a bunch of the Union troops had come down the Tennessee River. And there's just a bunch of guys like hanging out that are like separated from their units, but mainly they just run off. And it's sort of they're sort of struggling with that. Like it don't make no sense no more kind of thing. And one general says, they're not worth a bullet. They're just demoralized. They'll come around. And it was just an interesting from the perspective of kind of a deserter that was part of a group of deserters that was so huge that it was beyond the capacity of the normal means of handling a problem like that. Like you can't shoot them all. You know what I mean? It's just like, just leave them be. We got a battle to fight here. And but it was interesting dealing with their individual struggle with, well, I never thought I was a coward. What happened to me here? And this one guy, actually, he just decides, okay, I'm done being demoralized. And he just trudged back out to find his old unit and just joined back up like nothing happened. But I was thinking that in this scenario, there'd be a lot of interesting dynamics about, everybody has these festivals, but then life goes on. So what is this like for like a farmer, for example, who's got to get up in the morning and do chores and see to his animals.
Right.
And he is in the, in the dairy business, he's producing milk, and there's a whole infrastructure that's involved with that. And their family, pays lip service to the festival of the day, so to speak. But they've kind of worked around this bureaucracy in order to do what they have to do to carry on, And I think there'd be a number of interesting sub-stories along those lines. and then how it impacts when they come up against the bureaucracy, then they're forced to deal with it, you know?
Right. So are you saying this is a family or just a guy?
Well, I hadn't gotten that far. The other story, the other book I was reading, this Cold Mountain, there's a heavy theme through it. You've got wolves, you've got sheeps, you've got wolves, and you've got sheep, and you've got sheepdogs. And I have a picture of your hero as kind of a sheepdog. Like the wolves have kind of taken over,
Right.
and the sheep, just because they don't know what else to do, they just kind of go along to get along.
Right.
And this guy says, you know what, this has kind of got to all stop. And there's this one character, he was wounded badly. He served, you know, in the Confederate Army, but then he got hit in the neck and he got left in one room with the hopeless cases, but somehow he lived, and he suffered through a terrible process of the wound festering and infection, and somehow he survived. And then one day he just decided to just walk home. And on the way home, there was all kinds of depredations. There was the home guard were people on the lookout for deserters, and they were getting paid bounty, but mainly they were going around and just commandeering people's livelihood and delivering it to the army, you know, and they were predators. They were the wolves. They were scavenging on the bones of the dying Confederacy. And then these poor people, oftentimes women, trying to hold the farm together, get some tobacco planted, get some cow's milk, you know, keep the chickens going, you know, and then they come, and these guys come by and they take all their the corn out of the corn crib. Well, what am I going to feed the hogs? They say, oh, what hogs? Oh, guys, fan out. These guys have gotten some hogs hidden from us. You know, I mean, and on the way home, the hero character, he just kind of he's tough, you know, he has seen the elephant, so to speak. He knows what it's like to stand face to face with a Union soldier, and both of them have fired their guns and they got nothing but their bayonets, and they're chest to chest, and he's just got to survive, you know. And so when he sees the injustice of these people being taken advantage of, he just plays sheepdog and just starts kicking butt. And it's just an interesting dynamic, you know, the guy whose sense of moral outrage is might for right, not might is right, you know. And and I see the element of that in this Xander.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess that's the way I want to go. That's the way I want to go with it. I want to go with that hero story.
I like that. I had the thought that maybe Xander, while he himself doesn't have the aspirations of a hero, he's raised by heroes, right?
Right.
There's the sword master who has taught him, you know. There's the lore masters who have been teaching his family since Xander the First, you know, there's all these people around him. It's like when the thing that tips over and he finally begins to act, he's like a fully stocked overland vehicle. It's got the tires, it's got the engine, it has all the food. It's just the driver is not there, you know. He doesn't have that driving force. But then I'm saying I think he's thrust into the hero aspect, where there are sort of increased bandit raids, right?
Yeah.
And then they find out that the bandits, you know, underneath their raggedy cloaks have the livery of the country to the north, to the north. Right. And then the lore master, his like debate teacher, all these heroes around him who he doesn't know this, but they themselves are the descendants of the heroes who were slain. They kind of manipulate him because he doesn't want to go, but he's the king. And if he declares to go, then he gets to take gold and food and, you know, 5,000 lances out of the city.
Right.
And they're like, if we can do this, we can begin we can begin his waking up.
That's cool.
And so they sort of manipulate him to finally defying the party planning committee, and he sort of you know, thinking they have his back, says, "Well, I am going to go out," and makes the decree, and the party planning committee don't want him to, but they're slaves to bureaucracy, and it's in the codes. If the king declares that he is going to go out with this many people with this much food for this amount of time, then he's going to.
Yeah.
And so then he kind of gets ushered out of the city with much fanfare. A festival day gets planned and made, and he leaves on a festival day that's dedicated to him leaving the city to go fight the bandits, right? And then as soon as he's out there, that's when the waking up starts to happen. That's when his sword master who's with him stops like calling him sir all the time, and stops, like, all of his servants are gone. All of a sudden this waking up starts to happen, and at first he's very resistant to it, but he warms up to it because he's primed and because he's got the blood of Xander. Like, he has the blood of that, of knowing what's right and wrong. It's just been kind of suppressed for so long, his whole life, and his father's whole life, basically. So that's kind of how I see this happening. Maybe not 5,000 lances, maybe like 200 lances. Because 5,000 is like an army, basically. But like 200 lances, and they travel out of the city and then travel out to, these bandits. Seth, you got any ideas?
Yeah. Okay. So the other element you drew from a magic system, get an idea here. So the magic system, not like the magic system is fire, but fire is kind of a core root of this thing. It's a mesmerizing thing. I would say most people don't have access to fire. The special, I don't know, maybe some kind of like magician class, has means to make fire. Most people might have some kind of element, some ore that, maybe it's some ore you get from the ground, you put water on it, it gets hot, and so then they use that to heat their homes. But most people don't have fire, right? So it's like these, there'd be like these wizards, right? But they can mix together and make a match, which then they can strike it, and then it's like this mesmerizing thing. And by the time it goes out, they can, let's say, make their getaway, and everyone kind of like just kind of got lost in themselves, right? Like maybe on feast days, I'm thinking of like, the leader would come out with a torch. I'm thinking of like the Statue of Liberty with the torch and stuff like that. That kind of imagery of, that liberty, and it draws people to it, and it's something unkind of, no one really understands it, but like fire is like a mesmerizing kind of deal.
Yeah.
If you can get fire and attach it to your lance, or, bring a torch into battle or something that, it's not like it's just everywhere, everybody has it all the time, but like if your leader can come out to the field with, in that sense, like a torch, or deploy small bits of, flame here and there, or in like more of a calm setting, right? Like one would gather around a small flame and tell a story, and everyone gathered around would almost be lost in time and engrossed in what was being said or happening, or, kind of the way the element plays out in this world. But
yeah, I like it. I like the idea that it's like a rock that you pour water on and it heats up.
Oh no, I was thinking that's like most everybody has that.
No, I know.
Right? Some kind of ore.
I know. I just think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's like a non-fire mechanism for heating and cooking, and it's just people.
Okay, yeah.
And then the light, like then people would be really tied to the sun. In a way that you don't have fire. Fire was a great game changer where you started having people working nights.
Yeah, I was thinking about, well, what about lightning strikes? And it's like, well, that's easy. When lightning strikes the ground, it turns the ground into that type of rock.
Yeah,
it's just like cracks on the ground, and then that ground is like all that rock now.
This is really interesting. This is can you imagine a whole society that like develops but doesn't have fire?
Yeah,
except for the druidic crew, the wizard class.
Right. And so it being mesmerizing, I like the whole story thing where it's like you light a single candle and then you tell a story, and everyone's kind of like centered on that.
Yeah.
Everyone is a giant moth. This is a world of moths.
Oh man.
Moth.
This is a great story. I really like it.
Yeah. So my idea with the government type is that the government is not the villain, right? The incredibly bloated bureaucratic system that exists to make festivals every day of the year is not the villain. They are unchecked power grubbers, right?
Yeah.
But they're not the villain. They don't have evil intentions, right? They have done work to make sure that the economy still functions. They just also want the power for themselves and don't want it to give it to the king.
Right.
You know, I want to say that because I think this whole thing of him going and investigating like a possible intrigue of sabotage by another country is like a pretty good idea as far as villains go. You know, this country has definitely focused more and more about what's happening in the capital city, about what's happening in the main cities, and less about their borders in the years that have been sort of dragging on, you know? So I just wanted to say that about the world.
Cool.
Any other story building elements you guys have before we call this one a wrap?
No, I think that's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast. If you like this episode, let us know. Send us an email at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com. Message us on Twitter at @getsbettercast. If you have any cool ideas, interesting comments, or questions about the episode, let us know. We'd be happy to answer them. And until next time, and until next week, don't forget to wait, because it gets better.